Welcome to Jim Rohn Treasures, where timeless wisdom blends with modern life. There is one thing I learned far too late, and I wish I had known it earlier so I wouldn't have wasted so many years wandering through life. That people don't attract what they want. People only attract the exact version of who they are becoming. Back then I was young. I wanted many things: more money, more opportunities, a better life. I wanted, and wanted, but nothing changed. And then one very quiet evening I stood in front of the mirror. I looked into the mirror and realized the thing holding me back wasn't the outside world. It was the person staring back at me. You see, we pray for a new life, but we live with old habits. We hope for different results, but we carry the energy, standards, and mindset of our old self. Life doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to who we have become. And if you're tired of trying and trying without moving forward, if you feel you deserve more but life refuses to budge, then maybe just like me back then, you're standing in front of a mirror you haven't dared to look deeply into. In today's video, I want to take you through the principles that completely changed my life, principles that don't just help you want more, but help you become more. And I hope you stay until the end, because the final principle might change the way you see yourself and the future you think you're not capable of reaching. Let's begin. Because when you change yourself, your entire life begins to move. Principle 1, the mirror law. I want to tell you a very real story from my life. A time when I felt the whole world was turning its back on me. Back then I worked hard, busy every single day. But every month was a struggle, debt kept piling up, and the future didn't look bright at all. I kept asking myself, why am I trying so hard, but life still won't move? And like many people, I blamed circumstances, the economy, other people, everyone except myself. Then one day, while I was complaining about everything, my mentor, Mr. Schoaf, looked at me for a long time. He didn't scold me. He didn't blame me. He just said one sentence. And to this day, every time I remember it, I get chills. Jim, life does not respond to what you want. Life only responds to who you become. I froze as if someone had knocked on my head. I had heard many good pieces of advice, but that sentence hit exactly the wound I had at the time. That evening, I went home and stood in front of the mirror. But this time, I didn't look at my hairstyle. I didn't look at my clothes. I looked straight at the person facing me. And I realized the life I had wasn't unfair. It was simply reflecting exactly who I was at that moment: the old habits, the low standards, the lack of discipline, the unwillingness to improve myself. In other words, my life wasn't bad. It was honest. My income reflected the value I delivered. My relationships reflected the energy I brought. My health reflected how I treated my body. My opportunities reflected my preparation or lack of it. And you know what woke me up the most? The mirror never lies. It doesn't care what you wish for. It only shows you who you are. But the mirror has one gentle thing about it. It is honest, but not cruel. It doesn't say, you're terrible. It simply says, this is your current original version, and you can make it better. So I started small, very small, waking up a little earlier, reading a few more pages, finishing one task I had been putting off, rewriting my goals, keeping tiny promises to myself. No one noticed those changes. No one clapped, but the person in the mirror changed. And when the person in the mirror changed, the outside world began to change too. Turns out, you don't need to change everything to start. You just need to change yourself a little, and the mirror will reflect a new future. Tonight, I want you to try what I did that day. Stand in front of the mirror, look closely, and ask yourself one very important question. What version of me is my life reflecting today? And a year from now, who do I want to see in this mirror? No need to answer right away. Just daring to ask already puts you ahead of most people. And when you see yourself clearly, you will understand why we don't attract what we want. We only attract the version of ourselves we are becoming. Principle 2, you don't get what you want, you get what you become. There is a mistake almost everyone makes when they're young. I made it too. We want so many things, but we don't become anyone. I remember early in my career, I wanted to earn more money. I wanted better opportunities. I wanted my life to be less of a struggle. And I thought, if I wanted it badly enough, life would give it to me. But I was wrong. One time when I complained to Mr. Schoaf, I want a better life. Why hasn't it come yet? He looked at me and said, a sentence that silenced me, Jim. You don't get paid for wanting. You get paid for the value you bring. That sentence flipped me 180 degrees. It made me realize something: wanting more doesn't make you richer. Wanting a better relationship doesn't make you a more loving person. Wanting a skill doesn't make you skilled. Wanting changes nothing. Only becoming changes everything. Becoming is the flame. If you want higher income, you must become someone who brings more value to the marketplace. If you want respect, you must become someone who lives with standards. If you want to attract good people, you must become someone worthy of standing beside them. If you want a more peaceful life, you must become someone who can manage their emotions. See, everything revolves around who you become, not what you want. Your results will never exceed the person you currently are. No one can fly higher than their internal capacity. No one can harvest what they haven't planted inside. That's why so many people keep trying to change circumstances, change jobs, change environments, but life still feels the same because they bring their old version everywhere they go. Change the question. Don't ask, how can I have more? Ask, how can I become the person worthy of what I want? Don't ask why. Hasn't the opportunity come? Ask, if the opportunity came today, would I be capable of holding it? Don't ask why. Don't people treat me well? Ask, have I become someone who creates good energy in relationships? When you change the question, you change direction. When you change direction, you change results. Back then, I wanted to become a speaker. But every time I stood in front of people, I shook. I spoke softly. I didn't have deep knowledge. I didn't have enough experience to share. But I wanted a big career. I wanted people to listen to me. I wanted a voice. My mentor looked at me and said, Jim, you want to be a big speaker, but you haven't become someone worth listening to. Painful, but true. So I started reading every day, taking notes every day, learning every day, sharing with individuals with small groups. I became someone who had something to say before expecting anyone to listen. And then opportunity came. Not because I was lucky, but because I had become someone worthy of that opportunity. Today, ask yourself, the thing I want, does my current version have what it takes to keep it? If the answer is not yet, don't be sad. It's a good sign. It tells you exactly where to begin. You cannot rise above the internal version of yourself. When you understand that you must become before you receive you, step through a very important door, the door of raising your standards, raising your life. Principle 3, raise your standards, raise your life. I used to think that to change my life, I had to do something big. Change careers, move houses, meet an amazing mentor, or wait for luck to fall from the sky, but my mentor shook his head. He spoke softly, but I remember it to this day. Jim, you don't need to change the whole world. You just need to change your standards. I was stunned because no one had ever told me that. And the longer I lived, the more true it became. Think about it. Not everyone has the same 24 hours. Some people use it to grow. Some people let it slip away. The difference isn't time, it's standards. If you accept being late, you will always lack time. If you accept half-hearted work, you will always get half-hearted results. If you accept relationships that hurt you, you will always get hurt. And if you accept procrastination, your dreams will procrastinate with you. It sounds simple, but it's one of the deepest lessons I ever learned. When I was young, I was a people pleaser. Anyone asked, I helped. Anyone invited, I went. Anyone needed something, I showed up. I was busy all day, but I didn't move forward much. And I thought being busy meant living well. Until my mentor said, Jim, you are living by other people's standards, not your own. That sentence felt like a slap to the chest. I startled. I realized I wasn't lacking ability, I lacked boundaries. That day I sat down and wrote one small thing. Starting today, I will not live like this anymore. Don't ask, how can I have more? Ask, how can I become the person worthy of what I want? Don't ask why. Hasn't the opportunity come? Ask, if the opportunity came today, would I be capable of holding it? Don't ask why. Don't people treat me well? Ask, have I become someone who creates good energy in relationships? When you change the question, you change direction. When you change direction, you change results. Back then, I wanted to become a speaker. But every time I stood in front of people, I shook. I spoke softly. I didn't have deep knowledge. I didn't have enough experience to share. But I wanted a big career. I wanted people to listen to me. I wanted a voice. My mentor looked at me and said, Jim, you want to be a big speaker, but you haven't become someone worth listening to. Painful, but true. So I started reading every day, taking notes every day, learning every day, sharing with individuals with small groups. And you know what? Everything began to change from that one small statement. Not because I instantly became someone great, but because I stopped accepting things that made me smaller. I no longer worked half-heartedly, no longer quit halfway, no longer let others pull me into their laziness, no longer compromise with my own weakness. That was the day I understood your standards are the dividing line between your old life and your new one. When standards change, behavior changes. When behavior changes, life changes. You don't need to force yourself to be perfect. You just need to set a new standard. I no longer do it the old way. When you raise your standards for health, you naturally eat differently. When you raise your standards for time, you start declining meaningless conversations. When you raise your standards for money, you begin wanting to learn to improve, to stay disciplined. There is something I only understood much later, that success does not come to the smartest person, does not come to the luckiest person, and certainly does not come to the smoothest talker. Long-term sustainable success comes to the person with character. It sounds simple, but for the old me, it was an extremely expensive lesson. When I first met Mr. Shofi was a young man, enthusiastic, hardworking, but a bit immature as a person. I wanted success fast. I wanted to make money early. I wanted people to recognize me immediately. One day I asked him, "Sir, how can I become more successful?" He looked at me and asked back, "Jim, if you were given a big opportunity right now, have you become the kind of person with enough character to keep it?" I went silent because I knew the answer was no. I still often broke promises to myself. I worked based on mood. I quit halfway. I kept apologizing for the same old mistakes. I talked more than I acted. That was when I understood I didn't fail because I lacked opportunity. I failed because I lacked the foundation to hold opportunity. Character determines whether you get to stay or not. You might be a bit more talented than others. You might be a bit quicker than someone else. But if you're not trustworthy, if you break promises, if you work by emotion, if you don't keep discipline, then life will soon close the doors you could have walked through. And when your standards rise, you will see a very clear truth. A sustainable life is not built on intelligence, but on character. Principle 4, character is the real currency. Those small things accumulate into the substance of a person. And then one day you notice something strange. People feel your character before they understand who you are. No need to show off. No need to prove. No need to talk too much. Just live truthfully, and your character will shine on its own. Doing what you said you would do long after the initial emotion is gone. Anyone can make promises when they're excited. Anyone can be determined when they're fired up. But only someone with character keeps going when there's no more excitement, no more feelings, no one watching. Do you know what makes people truly respect someone? Not talent, not words, but consistency. Consistency in the smallest things. Consistency when no one is looking. Consistency when everything gets uncomfortable. That is the difference between someone who wants and someone who becomes. Tonight, gently ask yourself, how many times have I broken promises to myself? Not to blame yourself, but to know where you should begin. Character is the only currency that never loses value. And when your character becomes solid, you will notice something interesting. The energy you carry says it all. Principle 5, energy is a signal, and it always tells the truth. When you raise your standards for yourself, people will raise how they treat you. Not because you ask them to, but because they feel the new energy in you. Tonight, write down 3 things I will no longer accept starting today. Just 3 things. But I promise you, those will be the first 3 bricks of a completely different life. Your standards are the silent declaration of who you are becoming. Just by looking at how someone stands, how they breathe, how they look around, I could tell who had a goal, who was lost, who was quietly fighting, and who had already given up. Energy always tells the truth, even when you say nothing. My mentor once said something I never forgot, Jim. You cannot carry low energy and expect to attract high opportunities. I've seen many talented people, but when they walk into a room, it's like the lights go out. No brightness, no warmth, no vitality. And then they ask, why does no one pay attention to me? Why don't I get opportunities? Why am I trying but not recognized? But they don't understand opportunity is not persuaded by words. Opportunity is pulled toward energy. Just like you don't want to hang out with someone who always complains, drags others down, is sluggish and lifeless, opportunity feels the same. There was a day I had my first meeting with a businessman. There is something interesting about humans. We can hide our words, hide our emotions, hide our inner thoughts. But there is one thing we can never hide. That is energy. Before you even open your mouth to say a single word, people have already sensed what kind of person you are. It's strange, but very real. I've walked into rooms full of strangers. No words needed. People could feel it all. From that day, I started adjusting the one thing I always have control over: the energy I bring into any place. Not acting, not overdoing it, simply showing up with a clear intention, respect, and a spirit ready to contribute. But mediocrity works the same way. If you stay around discouraged people too long, you'll become discouraged. If you stay around negative people too long, you'll feel everything get heavier. If you stay around complainers, you'll find yourself starting to complain too. The environment doesn't just influence you, it shapes who you become. But the great thing is, the reverse is also true. Around people with goals, you become more goal-driven. Around optimistic people, you become brighter. Around disciplined people, it's hard to live carelessly. Around people with strong energy, you're forced to level up. You don't just bring energy into a room, you create the energy of that room. When you walk in, are you the one who lifts people up or pulls them down? Do you spread fire or spread fatigue? Do you make people feel better about themselves or more tense? In any space, you only have two options. Either an elevator, the one who lifts the entire room, or an anchor, the one who drags everyone down. There is no neutral zone. Tonight, ask yourself, the energy I carried today, was it an invitation or a warning? The energy you bring is the introduction letter about who you are before you even speak. Energy never lies. It speaks for you all the time. And when you understand the power of energy, you'll clearly see another law of life. It's not always harvest season. There are seasons only for planting, watering, and waiting. Principle 6, the law of seasons. Every result has its own season. I was so nervous, my hands were drenched in sweat, and I tried to act confident, but he took one look at me, and I knew he saw everything. He smiled and said, "Jim, the energy you bring in determines whether people want to work with you or not, before you even say a word." That sentence made me start watching myself in a completely different way. I realized I often carried worry, lack of self-belief, confusion, fatigue, awkwardness, and sometimes negativity. When I was young, I was eager to change my life. I wanted my income to increase quickly. I wanted opportunities to come right away. I wanted clear results every week, even every day. And when life didn't respond immediately, I was disappointed. I doubted myself. I thought I wasn't good enough. Until my mentor said, "Jim, you plant the seed and then you dig it up to see if it's grown yet. How can it survive like that?" That sentence left me silent for a long time. He continued, "Results don't sprout according to your emotions. They sprout according to their season." I realized I didn't lack ability. I lacked the patience to walk through all the seasons. The sowing season, the season of action without visible results. This is the season when most people quit because it's boring, it doesn't sparkle, it doesn't bring applause. You learn a new skill, but you're not good yet. You change your habits, but see nothing. You try to build discipline, but the results are tiny. That's the sowing season. And this season is always quiet, but it's the sowing season that decides the harvest. Don't expect fruit when you've only just put the seed into the ground. You must put in the work before you see the shape. The tending season, the season of consistency. This is the season when you must keep going after the emotion is gone. You have to work without getting praise anymore. You have to remind yourself every day, just being better than yesterday is enough. The tending season is not glamorous, but it builds the foundation. And truly successful people always go through this season. My mentor once said, "You cannot reap what you do not tend." True. Life does not respond to impatience. It responds to consistency. The waiting season, the hardest season. This is the season that discourages people the most. You've planted, you've tended. There is a lesson that took me many years to fully absorb. It's not always harvest season. And your efforts today will not always produce results tomorrow. Life operates just like nature. There is a season for sowing, a season for tending, a season for waiting, and a season for reaping. But most of us only like the harvest season. The 3 seasons before that, we want to skip. I used to be very impatient. I wanted to plant today and harvest today. And finally, the harvest season arrives, but harvest only comes when you sow properly. You tend consistently, you wait patiently. Many people see someone else's success and say they're just lucky. But no one sees their 3 previous seasons. The late nights studying, the repeated failures, the days when no one believed, the moments they almost gave up. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you've planted in the seasons before. Gently ask yourself, what season of life am I in right now? The sowing season, the tending season, the waiting season, or the harvest season? Whatever the season, just remember, no season is meaningless. You cannot reap in a season you weren't brave enough to sow. And when you understand the law of seasons, you'll realize something profound. To walk through all 4 seasons, you need something more important than skill or talent, that is emotional endurance. Principle 7, emotional endurance, the ability to stand firm when things don't go your way. And finally, the harvest season arrives, but harvest only comes when you sow properly. You tend consistently, you wait patiently. Many people see someone else's success and say they're just lucky. But but no one sees their 3 previous seasons. The late nights studying, the repeated failures, the days when no one believed, the moments they almost gave up. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you've planted in the seasons before. One slow season, one long winter, and they let go. Many years ago, I failed over and over in business. I lost all my capital. I felt ashamed. I started doubting myself. I thought I wasn't worthy. I thought life was unfair. I thought I wasn't good enough. One very exhausting evening, I went to see Mr. Schoaf. I asked him, "Sir, do I have what it takes, or am I just someone trying in vain?" He didn't answer right away. He poured me some tea, waited for me to calm down. "But you see nothing. No big changes, no clear signs, no promise that things will get better. This is the season when you must believe in what you cannot see. Believe that the seed is cracking open under the soil. Believe that the process is happening inside. Believe that change is in motion, even if your eyes don't see it yet. And believe that winter doesn't last forever. Spring will come, and definitely not about pretending to be fine in front of everyone. Emotional endurance is the ability to keep going. When you're no longer excited, the ability to stay calm. When everything is a mess, the ability to get back up. Even when your heart still hurts, the ability to stay on course. When your mind wants to quit, the ability to believe in yourself, even when the results haven't shown up yet. It's something you only gain after you've stumbled. No one is born with emotional endurance. It's forged in real life. There is a truth to attract big things. You must be able to handle big emotions. If you want to grow your career, you must handle pressure. If you want to expand your abilities, you must handle being bad at something at the beginning. If you want to build good relationships, you must handle moments of hurt. If you want to become a person of value, you must handle the loneliness that comes with growth. Every time your emotions want you to quit, remember that is not a sign that you're not good enough. It's only a sign that you are stepping outside your comfort zone. No one grows in comfort. Think about someone training to run. On the first day, they're out of breath. Their legs ache. They want to quit. Not because their body is weak, but because their body isn't used to the discomfort of running. But if they keep running, their body adjusts. Their breathing stabilizes. Their stride becomes stronger. And then they become someone they could never have imagined on day one. Emotions are the same. Emotions need to be trained. Tonight, ask yourself a very important question. What discomfort in my life have I been avoiding for too long? And is it time to face it so I can grow? Just that one question is enough to open a new door. Without emotional stability, there is no lasting success. And when you build emotional endurance, you'll start to understand another important law. You don't just attract what matches you, you attract the people who match you. Principle 8, environment and identity. There is a truth I only understood clearly after many years of observing. You don't just attract what matches you, you attract the people who match you. I used to think, how do I meet people better than me? How do I find a good mentor? How do I get into a more positive environment? I kept searching, but the more I searched, the less I found. Until one day, my mentor said a sentence that changed my perspective. "Jim, you don't attract the group you want. You attract the group most like you." I went silent. I knew I had just heard something very real. Notice this: disciplined people usually hang out with disciplined people. Hardworking people usually show up in hardworking environments. Chronic complainers always have friends who complain. Negative people easily pull in people just like them. People with direction always find each other. And people who are lost do too. Not because they deliberately choose that, but because their inner identity is broadcasting a signal. There was a time when my life was a mess. I lacked money, lacked goals, lacked direction, lacked even belief in myself. And do you know what kind of people I attracted into my life? Then people almost exactly like me at that time. We sat together and complained about work, complained about circumstances, complained about everything. It sounds funny, but have you noticed negative people find each other very easily? One day my mentor asked, "Jim, what kind of group do you want?" I said, "I want to be around people who are good people with goals." He looked at me and said, "You want to walk with them, but your identity doesn't match theirs." That was a direct hit to my pride, but it was true. And I realized this: the environment doesn't change if your identity doesn't change. You want to hang out with disciplined people, become disciplined. You want to meet people with goals, live with goals. You want quality relationships, become a person of value. You want positive people to come into your life. Stop broadcasting pessimistic energy. You don't find a good group. You become the person they naturally want to find. If the environment around you is chaotic, if the people you attract exhaust you, if your relationships feel low quality, stop asking, why don't I meet good people? And start asking, the version of me today, what signal am I? Sending out your identity is like a frequency, and people on the same frequency will find you. When you go to the gym consistently, you naturally meet consistent people. When you read regularly, you meet people who read. When you start a business, you meet people climbing like you. When you live with kindness, people recognize you very quickly. It's not that you're trying hard to make friends. It's that your new identity is placing you into the environment you belong to. Tonight, ask yourself very clearly, the people around me today reflect which version of me? If the answer doesn't satisfy, you don't blame others. Start upgrading yourself. Your environment is the magnified mirror of your inner identity. And when you understand identity and environment, you'll see something extremely important. Real success is built in the hours when no one is watching. Principe 9 quiet. There is something few people say out loud, but every successful person I've met understands it deeply. Real success doesn't happen on stage. It's built behind the curtain, in the hours when no one is watching. When I was young, I thought success came from some special moment, a big opportunity, a sudden stroke of luck, or someone stepping in to help me. But the more I lived, the more I understood. Those bright moments are just the surface. What holds your life together is always the hidden part. I once met a very successful man. He was respected by the entire company. Everyone thought he was lucky or had some special talent. One time I asked him, "What's your secret?" He smiled and said, "Jim, people see me calm under pressure, but no one saw the 10 years I spent learning to manage my emotions. They see me speak fluently, but no one saw the thousands of hours I spent talking to myself in the mirror. They see me work efficiently, but no one saw the late nights I spent tweaking every small detail." And he said something I'll never forget, "Jim, your quiet work will always speak louder than anything you show off." You cannot attract big results with an empty inside. Asterisk, asterisk. You want others to trust you, but you don't even trust yourself. You want a good career, but you won't give a few hours a week to improving your skills. You want a disciplined life, but you can't keep 3 basic promises to yourself. You want a different future, but your past keeps repeating itself every day. Opportunity doesn't come from what you say. Opportunity comes from what you repeat in silence. When you read while others turn on the TV, when you practice while others go out, when you correct your mistakes even when no one requires it, when you work 10 more minutes when your body wants to stop, when you decide to keep a promise, even though no one would ever know if you broke it, that's where you build your foundation. That foundation is invisible, but it supports your entire life, like roots. No one sees the roots, but the roots decide whether the tree stands or snaps. People usually judge success by the fruit, but life judges you by the roots. You can show off your skills, show off your achievements, show off polished images, but only one thing keeps you standing are your roots deep, and roots are built with persistence, repetition, humility, and hard work in the hours when no one claps. Once I was preparing for an important speech. I practiced alone hundreds of times. I adjusted every sentence, every word. I stood in front of the mirror until my throat went dry. A friend asked me, "Why do you have to practice that much? Just go on stage and speak naturally." I smiled and said, "Exactly because I only have 20 minutes on stage. I have to spend hours to be worthy of those 20 minutes. Quiet work is not for show. It is the investment you pay for the best version of yourself." Ask yourself tonight, what is something I know is important, but I haven't done enough of in silence? Write down just one thing and start tomorrow. Your results are public, but your value is built in silence. And when you've built that foundation in silence, you'll start attracting opportunities, people, and doors you previously didn't have the strength to walk through. Because in the end, you must become the person others want to walk with. Principle 10, become the person others want to walk with. There's something I've noticed that becomes truer as I get older. In this life, opportunity doesn't always seek you out, but people are always looking for someone to walk with, and they don't choose the most skilled person. They don't choose the one with the most degrees. They don't choose the smoothest talker. They choose the most trustworthy person, the most stable person. The person with the character and energy they want to be around. In other words, people follow your person before they follow your vision. When I was young, I wanted to become a speaker. I thought I needed to speak really well, really inspiring, really impressive. Until one day after a small talk, someone came up to me and said, "Jim, what touched me wasn't your words. It was the way you live in alignment with your words." I froze. Because I understood a truth: people don't follow speeches, people follow examples. From that day, I started building something more important than my speaking skills, my inner person. There is something few people realize: you are always an invisible mirror for someone. Whether you want to be or not, you are always influencing someone. Your child is watching how you live. Your coworkers are watching how you handle pressure. Your friends are watching how you keep promises. Your partner is watching how you face problems. The people around you feel how you treat them. You never just live for yourself. You are always a living example, good or bad. The real question is, what kind of example are you right now? One time I asked Mr. Show Off, how do I get people to trust me? How do I get them to want to walk with me for the long term? He only said one sentence: don't try to make people believe you. Live in a way that they can't help but believe you. And he continued, you can't lead others far if you don't know where you're going yourself. That was the moment I understood real influence doesn't come from trying to impress. Influence comes from inner strength and consistency. You must live real enough, deep enough, steady enough for others to feel safe walking with you. So what does it take to become someone others want to walk with one? Stability. Not being strong all the time, but being someone who doesn't give up every time things get hard. 2, clarity. Knowing what you want, knowing where you're going. Others find it easier to walk with someone who has light in their eyes. 3, kindness and respect, not weakness, but knowing how to keep boundaries and treat people fairly. 4, honesty and consistency, not making careless promises, not doing things half-heartedly, not disappearing when things get tough. 5, the ability to stand on your own, not relying on someone else to feel valuable. Those who can stand on their own are always attractive. And here is the most important thing: you don't need to try to attract anyone. When you become a strong version of yourself, with goals, with character, with good energy, then the right people will naturally come to you. The right opportunities will naturally open. The right doors will naturally appear, not because you're lucky, but because you have become someone worthy of walking through those doors. Today, ask yourself, if I met myself for the first time, would I want to walk with that person? If the answer isn't what you hoped, don't be sad. That's not a judgment. It's a map. People want to walk with you when you know how to lead yourself. We've just gone through a very long journey together today. 10 principles, but in reality, they all revolve around one single thing. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you become. When you change the person in the mirror, you raise your standards, you build character, you protect your energy, you develop emotional endurance, and you choose the right environment. Life can no longer stay still. It will move, it will open, and it will take you to places your old self could never reach. I hope that even just one principle in this video helps you see your life a little differently. If you feel you're in the sowing season, keep going. If you're in the waiting season, be patient. If you're in the tending season, trust the seeds you're nurturing. And if you're in the harvest season, be grateful and keep planting new seeds. Life is a long journey, and the most beautiful rewards always go to the ones who endure. If this video has given you something, even just one thing, please leave a small like and hit follow the channel. That lets me know you're walking with me on this journey of daily growth. And if you want to hear more deep lessons like this, share this video with a friend you think might need it today. Out of the 10 principles we talked about today, which one touched you the most? And which one do you want to start changing with first? Share it below. Who knows? You might inspire someone who's in need. A small change in who you are today can become the greatest thing in your life tomorrow.